Hi everyone, welcome to Yachting International Radio. You're with Karine Rayson from the Crew Coach on your mental health. Today I've got a very special guest because it's one of my clients, Tanya. Welcome, Tanya. Before we start, I would love for you to introduce yourself and give us a bit of context of how long you've been in the industry for.
Hi everyone. Hi Karine. My name is Tanya, and I joined the industry by accident the first time. I've met a person who was a captain on board a smaller 30-meter yacht, and then we've been friends, and I came over for a visit for a birthday party, and then I saw the yacht that he works on and the girls working on the yacht, and I thought that would be amazing experience because I always wanted to travel and make money at the same time. I'm sure that a lot of people come to the industry for the same reason. So I did come next year in May I didn't even have STCW or anything at that point, but I found a job and I was heading over to Norway, same in 3 days, I think.
Wow.
That was, yeah, in 3 days I was dock walking. I walked my feet till they bleed, and I've been in every marina from Cannes to Antibes that day. I was so excited to get a job, and I knew that I have a little chance because I didn't have any qualifications. I only had some experience in the restaurant. And yeah, I landed my first job like that. So since then, after the season, I went back home and I worked for 2 years at home as well again. But I missed yachting a lot, so I came back in 2013. And since then I work, 2014 actually, and since then I work on yachts permanently.
Incredible.
In the capacity of a chief stew.
Amazing. You're very dedicated and determined. You always have been.
Yeah, I guess if you set your mind on something, it's just how you get there, but there's no limits.
Yeah. Okay, so how we met was through Dean, Captain Dean from Yacht Arians, and he put us in touch, and you have done the foundational leadership course, and we've had counseling sessions together. And in one of the counseling sessions, I thought, oh my goodness, crew need to hear this. I needed to hear that from 10 years ago when I was working on board. We were, can't remember which yacht it was. It was Kaiser, don't know if it's still around, it's maybe a 62 meter. And we had South Africans, Australians, Russians, Ukrainians working on board, Canadian, big mix. And there was cultural issues, meaning that the way in which we were understanding each other was very different. So there was a lot of things where we didn't see eye to eye. And based on what you were sharing with me in the counseling session, your perspective from, I'm South African living in Australia and you are Russian, but how you saw things from your lens was really interesting. And I would love to go into that in more detail.
Okay. Oh, well, it's a long story. When we're kids, it's so easy to adapt. I think one of the things that was new to me is that when I was a kid or when I was at school, I never felt any difficulties into finding friends or being accepted in groups of people or children like me. But when I joined yachting, it was quite late in in my life. And when I was 28, I think I permanently came to yachting. And also my English was not that great. I mean, it's not perfect now either, but it was much more to learn for me, and about cultures as well. Because what I learned at school studying English, that for me, English language is the most polite, and there's a lot of manners involved in how you address other people in English language. It is initially was very different to how you would communicate in Russian language, it doesn't mean that Russians are rude or they don't have manners. It's just we communicated in a different way. So my first yacht, when I joined the yacht, and it was mostly international crew, a different European crew, and I didn't feel any differences. We were all having knowledge of English, but not basic, but enough to communicate at work. But at the same time, everybody was on the same level or very similar. We all were foreigners trying to speak foreign language. And then I had another experience on a yacht where 90%, 99% of the crew were English mother tongue speakers. And I remember that was the first struggle for me, because I come from the culture where sarcasm is an aggressive way of communication unless you know people quite well. And I would not understand a lot of jokes, or when people joke about me, or and I remember I would get defensive or would not react to the jokes as a joke.
Yeah. Maybe what would be kind of helpful for us to do quickly as an interesting exercise before we go into a lot deeper, and I remember talking about this in our session, is the labels that different cultures get. So South Africans are known as to be arrogant, right? And Americans are known to be loud. Is that correct? Is that if you think of...
Honestly, no.
Okay.
I don't really see South Africans as arrogant people.
Okay, it's interesting.
It didn't come across to me that way, at least.
Okay, so if I had to name some different cultures, what would be the first words that come up for you? So South African, what do you think?
Cocky.
Quirky or cocky?
Cocky.
Okay, cocky.
Especially boys.
Okay, which is similar to being a little bit arrogant, I would think.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Arrogant, I would still say cocky, yeah.
Okay. How about Americans?
Americans, I didn't work a lot with American crew, to be honest. I lived in America when I was a student, and unlike most people, most people, unlike a lot of people I heard from, I like Americans. Okay. I think there a lot of people who I met were really kind and funny.
Okay.
And
so Americans are kind and fun. What about British?
I don't know what's the word would be. I would say, for me, English would be arrogant
as well. Okay. What about Russians? Your culture?
Well, Russian crew, it's very hard to define your culture. When I say,
what do you?
They would come across rude.
Rude. Yeah.
They would come across rude, or cold.
Okay. Okay, so can you explain why they would have that label?
Yes, first of all, because of the different mannerisms, different way of communication, or different way to present information, and a structure of language is that. So in Russian language, for example, we also say please and thank you, but not every 5 seconds. And we translate that in a tone of the voice, or in the way we build the sentence. So the way the words are standing in the sentence, that you can show that you're, being polite. It's not necessarily has to be
the actual word.
Thank you, or may I? Because when I first came to the industry, I would say, I want this, or I want that. I wouldn't say, may I please have?
Yes.
Which I learned in time, and it took me quite a while to realize that people, when they communicate, that's very much depends on where they come from, the way they communicate their English with you, like the way.
I had no idea. I didn't know that with regards to the tone and how you structure the sentences convey a deeper meaning.
Yeah, definitely. Was like in every single language, I think, in a culture, you have your slang words or slang sentences that you can use as well, and that can sound much different from one meaning from another. So depending on what you use.
So would you say now that you've reframed the way you talk, so instead of saying I want, have you noticed yourself saying please may I have?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Because I also do it with a thinking of the person I communicate with, right?
Yeah, excellent.
Because that was the job that I've done through all these years, is that I would understand what makes those people understand me better, or in the way that I want to come across.
Yes.
And then I would make an effort to do that, of course.
Okay.
And sometimes when I'm in a shop somewhere in south of France, and I hear Russians on the background asking the lady at the counter to look at something, and they're being really rude. Sometimes I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is how I was when I joined the industry. And that's understandable why people could think that I'm rude, or and also the way you in the same situation in Russia, for example, the same environment, and how people communicate in that environment can be very different towards environment in other country. For example, a waiter or waitress in United States, nobody's going to be, most of the time, people are not going to be rude to them, or pay less respect. Let's say in some other cultures, it would be not as favorable kind of place to work, for example. That would be a very different approach to people, and that's also one of the differences that I've came across.
Okay, so what would your advice be for crew members who have, say, their head of department is Russian or Eastern European, and the way in which they communicate is I want, and it comes across as rude or aggressive? How could someone more junior communicate to them that their communication style is difficult to work with? Because no one a lot of people personalize feedback and they find it very hard. So what is the best way to approach that? Or even think about it in your shoes back then. If you notice that, like, it maybe took you a while to understand and you had to learn by yourself based on other people's reactions, that the way in which you were using your language and tone wasn't very agreeable.
When I got into the situation when I was not understanding why people react on like that, or either when I was wrong communicating something the way that came across rude, or where they were rude to me as I thought, I think the only way, I remember I was coming to a crew member and I said, what's wrong? Why would you be so mean to me? And the crew member said, I wasn't mean to you. He's like, why? But I said, why you said things that you said? And because I really didn't understand, and I'm always being like a very open person, and if there's any problem, I'd rather, ask. And I remember the person didn't realize, like, I didn't do anything. Like, he would tell me, and I said, but you said these things. And he would say, oh, it was just a joke. That was the perspective. And I think I've tried that year, I think on that boat, I've tried to communicate a couple of times. And I would say, this is not good. Why people say this or that. And the captain would, play the part. But until people don't want to accept or don't want to absorb and don't want to analyze the behavior, I don't think there's any change can be made unless people are aware of that. So I think what is, in my point of view, what is missing is that a knowledge about different nationalities in the industry. For example, this year, because of the COVID, I wasn't able to go to south of France to a regular place where I would update my STCW. So I would do it back home in Russia, in Moscow. And when I looked at the program, one of the program of the STCW includes the knowledge about international crew relationships.
Wow, that's impressive.
And first of all, because Russians are very different. It's a very different society and mindset. Since we have been in Soviet Union for a long time, it's a very different approach to, it's a very different mentality. So I think one of the reasons it was there because of that. And but I think actually that could be something that could be implemented for, not for just head of departments, which is very important, and which from what I heard is not even in management courses for senior crew. There's not enough information about it. But I think for any person who comes into the industry, because we come from all over the world, Europe, South Africa, now we have quite few African nationalities coming into the industry as well. And women and men of color, that's also a very important subject, I think, to educate people on. And that's what I think would make a difference. People aware of that before they step into and onto the boat. Obviously, it's very easy for me to work with just all Russians, or for English people to work with all English, or Australians to work with all Australians. which, yeah, it definitely makes the work on environment easier, but it's always happens that you have few crew that, and it will come more and more, I think, in the future. There will be more and more crew from different countries. So diversity is coming, you want it or not. You know, everybody have access to yachting industry these days. Not everyone equally treated, that is for sure, but the industry now opening up to other cultures. I worked with Sri Lankans and African, there's a couple of African nations, and Indians, and from small countries, like, you know, I don't even remember. There's a lot of nations right now that you can meet in yachting, but anyway, I think that there is something that everyone has to be aware of before they step on the boat.
I agree. And it comes down to education. So cross-cultural communication is key. And I think having mandatory courses that everyone needs to do, it's more than just silver service or doing a helm course, as long as they include those subjects in the courses. And the other thing, the nature of yachting, it's very hierarchical. And I think we just covered that, where it's not only the heads of departments that needs to focus on how to be an outstanding leader. I think it's leadership with no title, and I think it's awareness, and the environment on board is all about, well, it should be about teamwork. It should be about collaboration. And to work with a structure that's hierarchical and then also focus on collaboration, it's very difficult. And I think we need to sort of understand the importance around hierarchy in our industry, like having a captain to, man the boat, be at the helm, support the team members. But then it's also looking at, how can I get on your level? Even though, say, if I was a senior crew member and you're a junior crew member, at the end of the day, you're a human being. You've got feelings. And it's so important to understand where you're at and how I can support you as a leader. And another thing that I hear often is from heads of departments, I'm not into politics. Like, if you guys have drama, sort it out yourselves. But that's not showcasing excellent leadership skills. A leader should be at the core of the team and the heart of the team, where they're there trying to support, serve, understand, and provide for their team in the best way possible.
Unfortunately, yeah, I guess it works when it works on every level. I remember the situation when I was in a crew mess, and my second stewardess, she was saying something. She was a talker, this girl, and she was talking about something, and all of a sudden the chief engineer said, well, can you shut the hell up, because you talk too much. And it was at the table where chief officer and captain was present, and I was so shocked, and I said, well, I'm sorry, you can't speak like that to my stewardess. I mean, she's your team member. Like, why would you need to say that like that? And he would send me to hell and say that I should shut the hell up.
Wow.
And that was the real situation. And there was a captain and chief officer right there, and they didn't say anything. They were just laughing. And in this kind of situation, what can you do? If obviously I felt the need to protect my team member because I feel responsible for my team. But then if I don't get any support from my supervisors, how can I feel, or how can I be empowered to create any change?
Completely 100% correct. And that's the thing, like, again, communication and putting up preventative measures. So psychoeducation, what does our culture look like on board? Does it involve gossiping? Does it involve aggressive behavior? Or does it involve respect, vulnerability, kindness, open communication, humility? Like, what is it that we're all trying to work towards? Because it's very difficult to manage when it's a mismatch or a melting pot of different values and different understandings and life views and all of that. We do need to have clarity first on what we want the environment to look like, and then we can be accountable to the behavior.
Yeah, I agree. I had totally opposite situations when captains would see the deckhand teasing a stewardess, and then he would give shit to a deckhand for something in front, so the situation would turn around, and make it feel like, and what have you done then, and that would make it funny, and it would make it, it would ease the situation, and that would be a great, I think that would be a great kind of act in that situation, when you can see and catch that moment, and you can turn it around and make a person think of, what are you doing, you've just been in the same situation, and now now you're teasing another person. That gives you a little bit of a flashback. When I was a kid, and it's changed me for the rest of my life. When I was a little girl and I was attending art school, and there was a boy who had certain, I think it was certain disease, and he was quite slow, so he was slower than others. And then I remember we were a couple of, active little kids. There was boys and girls in our group, and we were teasing him. And one day his mom came to the school, and she said, she started to speak with all of us. She in front of teachers and us, and she said, this boy came to me and said, I don't want to go to the drawing school. And she said, why? And he said, I hate it. And she would ask, why you hate it so much? You love drawing. And he would say, well, this is, there's a couple of kids that teasing me every day, and I hate it, and I don't want to go ever to draw anything. And she came and she started to speak with us, and she would tell us, you guys are evil. You're young boys and girls, and you already made my son, hate drawing lessons and not wanting to come back ever again. And that situation, that really hurt me so much. I remember the other kids were, when she left, they were laughing and laughing about how weird this guy was. But I think I was about 6 or 7 years old, but that hurt me so much inside. And I said to myself from that moment that I would never, ever take part in that kind of thing again in my life.
Yes. It's interesting. Yeah.
I in that early age, I felt a lot of compassion all of a sudden. I was one of the teasers at some point. I was not probably the the most aggressive one or the most sharp one, but I was one of those kids, you know. And when his mom was speaking, I felt such a shame for myself and for what we've done, you know. And since then, I remember that I was defending every single, you know, person at school. I had a girlfriend. We still girlfriends until now, and until now, I'm defending her in any situation. Either somebody is being rude in the bus with her, or you know. So I feel a lot of compassion for people who struggle socially.
Yes.
Because I usually don't. You know, for me, it's easy.
Yes. And that's the thing, like what you've highlighted is the skill of empathy. And I think as human beings, we say things without thinking and we don't think of the consequences or how that could impact the other person. We maybe think about ourselves and go, well, oh my gosh, I get a lot of attention for being funny.
Yeah.
It's not really funny. It's impacting other people's lives in a significant way. This poor kid was not willing to pursue his passion anymore. And going on to empathy and conversations, crew mess conversations. In your session, you discussed about the conversations which made you feel excluded. So talking about who is going to win the election, or talking about storybooks when you were a kid. And you were telling me that I'm not familiar with certain countries' politics or the fairy tales that they are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this expectation for me to know, but no one inquires about my culture. So, yeah, if you, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I remember that. It happens quite often actually. That you would speak about something or childhood, and they would say, "Oh, you haven't seen this, whatever." Not Harry Potter. Harry Potter known to everyone, but like a little story about some
Little Red
chipmunk or whatever, like character that you know, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you haven't seen that?" And people don't realize that all my life I lived in Soviet Union and I watched, you know, our Chiborashka movies or whatever. That was very different to the English TV or uh, movies that they were watching when they were kids or TV shows. And simply as that is just people expect you to be from, you know, to see to know, to see all of that and to reflect as well. I would definitely make an effort most of the time, especially when it comes to the TV shows and movies or something important. Um, and I would try to watch it. And you know, I'm always curious. I watch The Crown, and just because I was curious, why is all this fuss about the, you know, the royal family and stuff? And obviously, as a human being that try to develop, you know, their world and around, and try to progress, I do try to watch as much as I can, but I can't dig that deep in the childhood and see all the TV shows that English speakers used to see in UK or Australia or New Zealand or in South Africa. You know, I can't be related to every single thing, and for me, uh, it's just a surprise of the scale of ignorance of people. You know, not realizing that I can't know everything. I already know a lot of musicians and painters and book writers that comes from their country, and I know a lot about their country that they probably know about my country. You know, so it's that, as simple as that. I think people in general tend to think that I don't have that feeling. I know that Russian culture is very different. It was very enclosed before to everyone else. So I expect people don't know and ask me questions. And I'm always happily answering. But being in situations that I have to feel sorry for myself not seeing not seeing certain things, or not knowing certain things, or like when people ask me who is one of the politicians in the structure of their country, and I would say, oh, I never heard of them, and they say, well, how come you never heard of it? It's the principle of principles of our country, or whatever. So how would I know,
Yeah. And that's why I think crew workshops and training is so important and should be done on an ongoing basis. So imagine if you, with say your interior team, during the shipyard period, once a month, you would get someone to teach the crew about their culture and the way that they communicate, or, specific topics that could also be applicable to the working environment.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that because we're in an enclosed place, it becomes necessary to use that kind of tools, because in normal circumstances, you go home and you talk to your parents, your friends, you have like your real life, but the yacht crew, that their real life happening right there every day. It's not just a working environment, it's a living environment, it's playing environment.
Yeah, it's everything rolled into one.
Yeah, and when it's not healthy, you don't have any escapes from that.
No.
It's good. I think that I worked on yachts when we had amazing relationships in between crew, and we were working hard, and then we were partying harder. It was, I mean, partying, by partying, I mean we would travel together as a group. We would go dancing, we'll go hiking and things like that, and we'll do stuff together. And everybody would respect each other's cultural differences, or
It's so important. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and hearing it from the lens of, well, your cultural lens specifically, because it certainly opened my eyes up, and I could definitely put my hand up with regards to being ignorant to other cultures when I was working on board 10 years ago. And even talking to you today, like, I've learned something new about the structure of sentences and tone from a Russian language perspective, and how it's so different to the English language. So thank you so much, Tanya, for sharing that with us all today.
Very welcome. Well, I'm guilty as well. I'm not saying that I don't do that. We all do. We're all guilty in being ignorant at some point. As long as you can catch yourself on that feeling, or then you can put a little bit effort somewhere to